Good afternoon. Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for coming here today. I am Lisa Benshia, the Manager of Travel and Special Programs here at the museum. A quick reminder to turn off your cell phones. SBMA's Armchair Travel Lecture Series takes you on a trip to otherworldly destinations, all from your armchair on a Sunday afternoon. We have a robust museum travel program to all corners of the world, and today we are delighted to bring those travels to you. Daniel Stone will be speaking next Sunday, and I hope you all will come. He's back there in the last row here today. And if you go to our website, there's a link to a CNN interview that he did, which is fascinating. He will be talking on the mysterious origins of our favorite foods. It will be following the footsteps of David Fairchild, who is a botanist and traveled around the world to bring us back foods like Meyer lemons and hops and seedless grapes. So that is next Sunday. We do have tickets available, same price as today, and we hope to see you there. Mara Papatheodorou is a former travel, I think I said that a little bit wrong, Papatheodorou. is a former travel editor from Bon Appétit and culinary expert who will be taking us on a virtual journey to French Polynesia today. Mara is a popular guest lecturer, commentator, panelist, judge, and presenter about food and travel. As a 12-year contributing editor at Bon Appétit magazine, she scouted and produced the Entertaining with Style section that highlighted how real people entertain around the country and the world. She also was editor of their annual international editions. She contributes to National Geographic Traveler magazine and is the author of the coffee table book, Moments in Time, the Ojai Valley Inn Spa. As contributing editor for Regent Seven Seas Cruises, she wrote and created the Sail, Sip, and Savor series, which educates travelers about the distinct flavors and flair of each destination. She is also the culinary specialist for travel company Destinations and Adventures International, where she cultivates and designs food and wine experiences. Before Bon Appétit, Mara lived in London for 12 years and was a columnist and editorial producer for the European edition of W and Harper's and Queen. She attended UCLA, University of Paris, La Sorbonne, and La Varenne Cooking School, where her food and travel adventures began. She is a member of Les Dames d'Escoffier and the International Association of Culinary Professionals. We have a trip to French Polynesia coming up this September. We have information outside if any of you want to go, and we have some of our participants up here. And but we're delighted to take you on a virtual journey to French Polynesia today. And join us after for some treats. And without further ado, please join me in welcoming Mara.
Hello, everybody. Am I on? Can you hear me? It's always so strange to hear yourself talked about that way. Welcome, and thank you for giving me a time of your Sunday afternoon. It's wonderful to be here. I am very lucky. I am a taste and traditions expert, and as Lisa highlighted, I was the travel editor at Bon Appétit magazine for 12 years, and in that time, it was really like being at graduate school because I got to talk about and learn about and write about and inform readers about all the tastes and traditions from different parts of the world. And we did Tuscany, France, the Caribbean, parts of Tahiti, et cetera, et cetera. So that's sort of where I cultivated my knowledge and continue to do so. Because the truth is, how many of you live to eat? Most of you, right? I like it. Me too. And how many of you eat to live? It's okay to admit that too. You know, because at Bon Appétit, it wasn't always about the cooking. Of course, it was recipe driven, but it was about enjoying, like we're doing today. It was taking you on a journey. And my feeling is the tastes and traditions were as much a part of the story as actually the cooking. So because it's about sharing and caring, and it's the one part, eating around a table, where we don't need language wherever you live. It can be yum, you know, wide eyes, smiles, shaking of heads, or it can be yuck, different, not my thing. but it unites us. And I think that's the amazing thing about the world becoming a smaller place through tastes and traditions and food, and understanding how different cultures and people unite or dissect, shall we say, their traditions so that we can taste them, learn about them. So that's what we're going to do today. How many of you have been to Tahiti or French Polynesia? A few have already. It is pretty much paradise, don't you think? And I know some of you today are also planning on going on the trip in September, and you're in for a real treat. When I first went, I thought, oh, it's going to be beautiful, but nothing prepared me. It is more extraordinary and stunning than pictures say. And the food is great, so on with it. Well, when I talk about sail, sip, and savor, and the reason I have said sail today is because it is a cruise that you're going on. I have sailed Paul Gauguin a few times, and it's a beautiful ship, and it's a smaller ship, so they're really able to get in and out of the ports so that you really get close to the different smaller islands. When we talk about the S factor in the food world, it's all about the sun, the sea, and the soil. The thing to remember is that tastes and traditions come this way. The tastes come from what grows there, and the traditions come because of what you have on your land, whether you have high sun and warm, and how things grow, how fruits grow, or how they don't grow. The sea, are you on the water? Are you in the mountains? That all affects the cultivation, the agricultural elements of what will thrive and prosper there. And the soil. Is the soil wet? Is it moist because of humidity? Is it dry? Is it rocky because you're further away from the sea? Is it cold like in Northern Europe, so that different things cultivate from where you are? And that's how it begins, and that's how we learn to live. That's the farmers, the fishermen, the homemaker, whoever that is. Wherever the explorers went, wherever the indigenous people are, how we survive begins with nature. It begins with the sun, the sea, and the soil. And we then say, I say for sure, the soul of tastes and traditions come from that, because that's how you figure it out. That's how you survive. Whatever the tastes that are near you or within your reach, that's what comes to the table. That's when the cook, the family member, whoever's in charge, the hunter, the gatherer, that's how you create the tastes of the traditions. And that's what makes each place so unique and so special. So you're going to French Polynesia, which you know is part of the Society. It's a Society Islands. And they cover about 2 million square miles of the South Pacific. And part of Tahiti is made up of, as you can see, the 5 archipelagos. And it actually is obviously French influence. The English tried to claim it in the times when the explorers were looking for land. It was actually Christopher Columbus who first came upon Guadeloupe, the Caribbean, followed by Ferdinand Magellan. But the French grabbed it, kept it. King George in England thought he was going to get it. They called it King George Island for a while, but the French prospered and won. And when you go to French Polynesia, it's still considered part of France. They are French citizens. And the tastes and the traditions, as much as they are Tahitian and island-driven, which I'll come to, there's also a French influence because the explorers came and brought their traditions and their tastes too. Again, this cross-pollination, this cross-cultivation, because of the journey, because of the way the map works, because of the way the sea works, and people bring from where they come to where they go their traditions, their tastes, and we learn from each other. So we all know about the pristine waters. This is really from Tahiti, so everything you see is there, and look at how blue those are. About the palm fronds, the stunning sunsets, and Paul Gauguin. Now, and Paul Gauguin, as you know, is French. He arrived in 1891 to Tahiti. He was a little bit of a melancholy painter. He was considered a purist and a simplist, and he loved the concept. Again, being French, he had the opportunity to get to Tahiti. He loved the concept of what they represented. It was simple, it was pure, it was calm, it was quiet, and it was colorful. And he believed in the philosophy of life and art, to the point where he said, art requires philosophy just as philosophy requires art. Otherwise, what would become of beauty? And beauty is in the eye of the beholder, but he just was so taken with it. He lived there for 2 years and then came back 2 years after that and died there in 1903. But he became famous for these types of scenes, the color, the people. He was really drawn to the way they lived and the calm purity of the lifestyle. And the women, and the life. He loved how women were honored and respected in terms of the doing. The men hunted, the women did, but they came together. Just as you can see, he did a lot of, there are many, as you'll see when you're there, many Gauguin paintings, and mostly about the people. This is probably one of his most famous, The Seed of the Arroy, which is really about purity and the seed of life and the fruits. And I could go on. I'm not going to talk in an artist way, but he really believed and touched on the food relating to the philosophy of art and of living. And that's what's depicted in this Tahitian scene with the flowers and all. So the Tahitians really, because it's an island living, again, they didn't travel far and wide. So how do they come to explain and live and understand their lifestyle? It's very similar to Greeks and the mythology, right? When you don't understand something, you come up with an answer. And they very much, their origin and their religious beliefs were very tied to nature, beauty, sea, where they were. So everything to them had a purpose and a representation. Hibiscus bushes are all over the island because, again, of the warmth of the weather. Hibiscus, as we know here in beautiful Southern California, Hawaii, they need sun, they need sea, and they do very well and thrive in sea air with a lot of sun. And you will see these different colored hibiscus all over the island. The gardenia, or in Tahitian, the tian, which is also a Vietnamese type of gardenia, smaller leaves, smells so fragrant, again, pulling the beauty. It settles you. Gardenia oil is a calming effect, just like chamomile or lavender. The story is a woman, if she is married, will wear it in her left ear for ceremony. If she's single and looking, it will be in her right ear. Different kind of a bachelorette. Coconut trees all over the island. Again, think about what thrives in warm weather. A lot of what grows there goes together, and the type of tropical fruits that we've come to know need the warm weather of Tahiti, the moistness of the sea, the highness of the sun. So all through the different islands of French Polynesia, coconut trees, banana trees, everywhere you look, breadfruit trees. The Tahitians have a lot of mythology, as I said, and one of the amazing, interesting things in looking at fruits and vegetables and flowers, they all have a story. So for instance, the breadfruit tree, they considered that it's very good for you. Breadfruit is high in fiber and it feeds you, right? You feel better after you eat it. It's good for digestion. And the breadfruit tree is quite abundant throughout the region. And they believe the leaves, if you take a look, represent the hand. Looks like a hand. So that's part of your job, is when it's harvest time, to pick the different fruits from the trees. The pineapple, which also is not a tree. Does everybody know that? It grows from the ground up. So that's the pineapple in the plant. So the coconut, which is, we all know now coconut oil, coconut water is so good for us. The French Polynesians, Tahitians knew a long time ago. And if you look at a coconut, it's used in spa, but it's very heavy in any part of Indonesia and French Polynesia in their cuisine. But they believed also one of the things, it calmed you down, but also they use it for an ailment, for a headache. And why is that? Because they believe the coconut looked like a human head. So they came up with these philosophies and these myths, or true to life fact, because coconut oil does help headaches. So it's interesting how they came up with remedies, because actually before it became cuisine, all of the natural elements around the world, most of them began with a medicinal purpose if it was a fruit or an herb. Bananas. And of course the pineapples. And pineapple, there's many pineapple plantations in Moorea. And do anybody know what they're good for? They're good for all of it. It's good for your skin, it's good for your heart, it's high in magnesium. Again, it was Christopher Columbus who first sort of discovered them in the Caribbean when he was representing Spain. And Magellan also found them in Brazil, and they were the ones that came up with the name pineapple, or piña, which is pine cone. It looked like a pine cone to them. So that was the Spanish. We, as the indigenous Native Americans, added the apple. So pineapple. Guavas. And the breadfruit, which I talked about, which are very high in vitamin C. We don't see breadfruit here a lot. You can get it in Southern California, but all over the French Polynesian Islands, they're there. Very good for you, similar to the consistency of a potato, high in potassium, and again, sort of just covers it all, whether it's sweet or it's savory. They are unique to that area. Mangoes. Papayas. Here in the United States, these are second nature to all of them. We now all rely on papaya and mango. Papaya, has always been a medicinal fruit. Very, very good for us. It's high in enzymes and aids digestion. And also, as we know, a lot of these fruits are used in creams and in facial masks and things because they cool your skin. So in the high sea areas like French Polynesia, you're going to be eating things that cool you down from the inside out, hence papaya, mangoes, and things like that. That's why there are all those facial masks that are made with tropical fruits. Lemons, grapefruits. As we know in this part of the world, citrus does very well in sunny areas. So they don't rely on citrus as much as we do in Southern California or in Florida, but they use it. But they are much more driven with the tropical fruits like the papaya and the mango. And of course, you're all going on your wonderful French Polynesian cruise, wonderful tropical drinks, whether they're alcohol driven or not. And this is a good example of using what grows there. So pineapple juice, mango juice, papaya juice. We, as the explorers and the Americans later on, we're the ones that added the alcohol for the woo factor. But the fruits, began, you would eat it or you would drink it because it made you feel better, whether it was aiding your digestion or giving you energy. That was why. And we all fell in love with it, visitors, because, it looks pretty and it tastes good. And you will see this. This is an example of a Tahitian bar because all the things that they do are from the island itself. Very little is imported in. So they have a lot of fun with the color of the bottles, a lot of happy and very positive ecological connection to recycling and respecting the land. Very respectful of the land in which they are. Again, the different punches, mixing and blending. And hibiscus tea. Hibiscus has taken on a whole new world here in the United States. The Hawaiians and, of course, the French Polynesians have been drinking hibiscus tea, whether hot or cold. Hibiscus juice, very, very good for you. Helps headaches also. Very good beauty regime. The women, Tahitian women, believe it helps your system, and if you want to get pregnant, it's right up there with the maca of South America. And it does, it tastes good. And it's reached new heights and new appreciation when it comes to America, and it's at places like Starbucks and Trader Joe's. Hibiscus. Rum, that is the one alcohol, again from the Caribbean, and the explorers bringing forward the rum. And that's what you find in your pina coladas. It's really the main mixer in Tahitian and French Polynesian drinks because, again, rum thrives in the Caribbean, and you get that heaviness. You don't have to like that drink. You can have a plenty without, but it's rum-based cocktails most of the time. And there is a Tahitian beer for those that like it. HINANO Tahitian beer. They do grow barley, and so it's a barley-driven beer, but it's not the barley that you're going to find in the colder weather countries, where in Canada or in Northern Europe, so that it's a lighter beer. Even though it's different shades, golden, light, or dark, it's because of the way it sits in the barrel. But they do have a pretty good beer, especially ice cold. But that's the beer you'll find on Paul Gauguin, and that's the only beer that you'll find in Tahiti. They do not import, as I said, they do not import American brands. You may find a French beer. Sometimes at a hotel they'll have Heineken, but they really are good at promoting what the island is about. Savory spices, again, looking at the sun, the sea, and the soil, what grows there. You've got the hibiscus. You're going to see all sorts of places that have buckets and barrels of peppers, because pepper, just like in South America, does very, very well in warm weather. And most of the herbs you will see will be dry because it's so moist, they can't keep them that long. I mean, you'll see fresh herbs at a restaurant, but in terms of bringing herbs home or the way they cook in the household, they're all dry. And if you notice, these are all French and English, again, because of the French influence of the open markets and the culture. The pepper and the peppercorn, different types of peppers, you'll find them in their cuisine. And the peppercorn, I highly recommend. It does taste a little different than American black pepper or white pepper. And they cook a lot with the bay leaf, which also thrives there. And the hot chili pepper. So that's how they add spices. You know, there's no sriracha or Tabasco going on. These are all things that they use and cook with. The other things that thrive on the island, as in most places, onions. And then the yams and cassava. Have you had cassava, which is a little different from a yam or a sweet potato? Similar, same family. And what's interesting about the cassava is it grows differently than a sweet potato, because a sweet potato needs cold and wet, more so. But any type of potato family can grow underground. The cassava is sweeter than the sweet potato. As I should say, it's sweet and it's tart at the same time, and it's usually white inside. The other one is the taro root, which is very indigenous to French Polynesia, and it has a gingery type of filling and a potato consistency. It is part of the potato family. It's high in fiber, good in potassium, great with vitamin B, and you're going to see that throughout your meals wherever you are. Taro root, which again is becoming more well known in other parts of the world, but it's very, very part of the Polynesian cuisine. And it's flavorless up to a point, whereas the cassava has a sweetness to it. The taro root kind of takes on the spices and the flavors of the broth, or however you're using your cuisine that way, but you will see it throughout the meal. And there are sweet spices, the cinnamons, the gingers, the anise, the vanillas. Tahitian vanilla, some of the best in the world, and a lot of that has to do because of the way the French helped pollinate the vanilla bean. It seems like it's very expensive, but I'll tell you, better to buy it there. Vanilla does not turn for about 2 years, so whether you buy it in bean or liquid form, it's a great thing to bring home. And you'll see vanilla throughout the flavor of the cuisine, and it's so pronounced. It can be a little bit or a lot, and you won't sometimes. I know with my palate, I'm like, what is that? You know, it's not like the vanilla we know. It can be, but it's so delicate because the flavors are so bold, and it's one of Tahiti's most important exports to the world. And the French actually helped do that because they brought it to France and then cultivated it as Tahitian vanilla. And of course, sugar, just like in the Caribbean, there are sugar plantations throughout French Polynesia, so it's a very happy combination. Dried hibiscus, as I said, this is not new to them, sort of new to us. And honey. Does anybody know how long honey lasts? Forever. It's the one element in your pantry that never, ever will go bad. Even when it crystallizes, you can throw it in your microwave or put it in hot water on your stove, the jar, and let it just distill again. They have found it in Egyptian tombs. Honey can be cultivated anywhere in the world that there are bees. So there are bees in Tahiti, and again, what grows there gathers there. So the honey from Tahiti is delicious. It's going to have more of a vanilla essence to it, whereas other parts, like for instance on the Greek islands, where Greece is very well known for their honey, you're going to get much more herbal honeys because thyme and rosemary grow there. Or in southern France, lavender thrives in that part of the world. So the floral honeys here, they do have hibiscus honey. It's a little bitter, because even though honey's sweet, it doesn't quite complement each other. It's only my humble opinion. But the vanilla honey is quite delicious and again, worth bringing home. Baguettes. So the reason we talk about the French influence, again, the Tahitians, the French Polynesians, they are French citizens. They're considered an out country, so that means they're part of the country even though they're far, far away. So a lot of the culinary traditions have come to Tahiti. Again, some of the traditions of Tahiti have gone back to France, but not as many as that have come to the islands. And the reason for that is the French chefs came, they had a different knowledge and a different appreciation of how to cultivate fish, how to do meats and curing and bread. So around the islands, I hope you'll see it when you're in port, you'll think they're mailboxes because there are these wonderful, colorful boxes in front of different houses. Well, the truth is, if you're getting mail in Tahiti, you have to go to the Center Island Post Office. They don't deliver mail to your home. These boxes are baguette boxes, and they literally will put a fresh baguette in a box. All you have to do is tell the baker you want it on a Monday, a Tuesday, a Wednesday, and we saw it many times. And they are similar to a Parisian baguette, a little different. Again, even though the flavors and taste translate, I should say the recipes translate, the flavors alter because the way the water and the flour is cultivated and used from Parisian bakeries to how they're done in Tahitian bakeries, you're going to have a little bit of a difference of consistency, but they're as fresh as can be. And the Tahitians, particularly anywhere on the islands in the world, they really kind of respect and honor freshness. It's a day-to-day thing. This is not, we don't have a huge amount of fridge and freeze for days and weeks. So the freshness of the baguette will be melt in your mouth, delicious. As well as the pain au chocolat. Cacao and cocoa, that does grow prominently in this part of the world, in Indonesia and Vietnam, Asia. But chocolate made its way again thanks to the French chefs, and pain au chocolat, which we now all love here, a special treat there. And croissant. Anywhere you go in a bakery, those are the three things you're going to see: the baguette, the pain au chocolat, and the croissant. Again, bringing the traditions from the French backwards and forwards. They may enjoy it a little bit differently with different jams or honeys, but you'll see the croissant. Seafood. Well, if you're an island and you're on the sea, obviously there's a lot of fish, and fish is a very prominent part of their cuisine and on the menus. You're never going to get it as fresh as it's going to be there coming straight out. They have a lot of oysters, and I will come to why that is. The oysters thrive in warmer waters. The rockiness, they find it quite happy to live there. As do prawns. So the oysters sort of sit on their own in the cuisine. The prawns you'll see mixed in many different ways in many different things, whether it's a stew or mixed with chickens or mixed with other seafoods. The oyster, like we treasure it here, it is considered a delicacy of sorts. It's just more available to all of the islanders, but they still consider it something special because of the seasons. The harvest is usually in October, and different oysters highlight in different places, as you know. Like in Washington State, oysters are very different from California oysters. New Zealand oysters are different from Tahitian oysters. They're very sweet, very good. Salmon, you'll find it in the different dishes. And the specialty dishes here is a Tahitian stew with the rice and the grain and particularly the shrimp. Poisson cru, does anybody know what that is? Similar to ceviche, so it's raw fish that they let sit in citrus. So again, using the tastes and the elements that are there, the citrus of grapefruit, of lemon and lime, you let it sit, and the fish cooks itself. It's almost on every appetizer menu, and I know Paul Gauguin will serve it to you. Again, very similar. It's just the Tahitian or French Polynesian version of ceviche. And mostly what's interesting is wherever you are, so I'm telling you, you can also get it in Spain or elsewhere because they have a lot of raw fish and citrus. So it's just how it's interpreted. The poisson cru usually, particularly in Tahiti, is blended with some fresh vanilla bean. So you're going to get, again, that flavor of vanilla, but mixed with the citrus, and they usually serve it with a baguette. So this is called a HIMA'A stone oven. Again, island living, right? You create your abilities and your traditions based on what you've got there. And in using all that's there, whether it's the coconut tree bark or the banana tree bark, you created stone ovens. This is in the time, these are primitive ways to live, but guess what? Fire, you can make fish, you can make chicken, and they still do that today. Tahiti does have volcanic soil, so the soil is very moist, and what they do here is you bury, it's like a pit, they dig a pit, and then they put the coal and the wood into the pit. Again, you're going to have the flavors of the coconut bark or the banana bark, and they cover it, as you can see, with planks, and they let it simmer. It's like a different kind of barbecue, using the elements like with spicy peppery shrimp and cassava and taro stew. So they'll bake. Again, remember, think of a sweet potato or a potato. They're hard, right? So they'll let it steam for hours. If we bake our potatoes low and slow in an oven, then they become softer. So that's what they do. So again, you're getting all those blends of flavors, whatever it is, and then you make it into a stew. This is a very common island dish all over, whether at a restaurant or in the home, because it takes probably 2 to 3 days to make the cassava taro stew because of the slow burning ovens. And you'll see them on the islands digging, and you're like, what are they doing? And they'll be bringing up these big wooden cases of whatever they've cooked. Jerk chicken, which is very Caribbean, but also very much to Tahitian and French Polynesian cuisine. Again, using the spices of what's there, whether it's the hibiscus, the peppercorns, the bay leaf, and letting it sit. And now in the restaurants and that have the proper ovens, they'll do a quick flash as well. And very common, you'll see it with the cassava and taro, sort of a ratatouille Tahitian style, which is a mix of vegetables. And this is a breadfruit appetizer. We don't, as I said, eat a lot of breadfruit in the United States. We're getting to eat more, but you'll see this at the start, along with the poisson cru. They bake the breadfruit, again, mostly in the stone ovens, and then they serve it with a curry peppercorn sauce for dipping. And it's sort of like eating a sweet potato fry without the fry part. So it's soft, it's not too mushy, and it's not quite a potato chip, but very delicious. And I hope you get them on Paul Gauguin. That was the first place that I had been introduced to the breadfruit appetizer. Papaya and pork. Further away from the sea, you're going to see wild pigs, again, sort of grabbing the tastes that are there. So what have you got? Tahiti isn't really a dairy island, so to speak. The milk comes mostly from the coconut, but pigs thrive there. So pork is an important meat staple in their diet. And again, mixing it with what you've got. So papaya and pork and sort of a chutney, if you will, or a sauce, usually involving the tropical fruits. So they'll take the bland fish or the meats, and then they'll add the tropical taste to it. And plantains. How many of you have had plantains? We know what they are. They're not potato chips. They are like a potato chip, but they are obviously from the banana family, and very prominent in the Caribbean. And because the Caribbean weather is very similar to the Tahitian or French Polynesian weather, and the plantain is part of the banana family. There are 8 different kinds of bananas that grow. So you'll have your traditional yellow banana, the Chiquita banana that we all know of, but the plantains are smaller and less sweet, and they're less sweet because they don't ripen as long, and they're a little tougher, so they don't do well being steamed. So that's hence how the plantain came with the oils, or sometimes in Tahiti they'll fry them in coconut water and milk. So the consistency will be a little bit different, but it's still, again, a fun snack, and you will munch on those a lot on Paul Gauguin. So the desserts. The desserts really sort of, the Polynesians and the Tahitians really love fruit, and that's again because of what's there. And tropical fruits are sweeter. Even when you pick a pineapple, it doesn't get more mature, but the longer you let it sit, the sweeter it becomes. And tropical fruits are very high, again because of the high sun and the wet soil, are very high in sugar, which isn't all bad if that's how you're eating it. So they were very sort of taken aback at the French connection. The breads and things they've understood, but the way they do desserts was something new. Again, they don't do a lot with creams. So the creme brulee, they obviously has vanilla. Again, the French chefs taking back from Tahiti what they had experienced, bringing the Tahitian vanilla. And Tahitian vanilla is probably what most master French pastry chefs use, no matter where they live, whether it's California or Paris. But the French brought the whole creme brulee, the egg and the milk. The Tahitians do it with coconut milk. So it's a very different, more subtle flavor. But vanilla is pretty pronounced throughout their desserts. The coconut and lemon loaf. Pineapple cake, or was what we know pineapple upside down cake, which was actually created by an American chef because her oven stopped working. So she threw the cake in a skillet and put the pineapple on top and flipped it over, and that's how pineapple upside down cake became a party favorite because it was sort of a surprise. I think you either like it. How many people like it? Yeah, you love it. And some people don't, because the way you flame it in a skillet is you douse it with rum. So again, using the elements that are on the island, the pineapple and the rum and pineapple upside down cake. They do not call it upside down cake because they think that's disrespectful. Chestnuts. So chestnuts are a really big deal in France and very much a part of their cuisine. And chestnuts they grow a lot in southern France, again, in areas like Provence that are near the sea and have the high sun. So they do grow in French Polynesia, and they tend to use chestnuts more as their nut base in their desserts. So they have the macaroons, but they're not usually almond. They're usually chestnut, which is, you're still going to get the same consistency. It's a paste, right? So you let it, the chestnut matures, and then as you cook it down over heat, it becomes a paste. You add sugar, vanilla. So chestnut macaroons, if you haven't had them, are delicious, and they are very much around the island. I should say islands. So on the culture of Tahiti, and you're going to have such amazing lecturers who are going to be talking about the history and much more elaborate than I would even go into. But the culture and the traditions, again, going back to the point about mythology and respecting the land and nature and beauty of the sea, the flowers, the leaves, it's all useful. It's all a part of their life. And the masks represent the ritual of believing in the gods, whether it's the god Tutu, who's the god of tattoos, which I'll come to, or the god of water. Papeete, the capital, for instance, in Tahitian means water basket, because that is what it is. It's a piece of land that's in the water like a basket. So the masks they use on a ritual basis for different celebrations. Just like any culture, it usually is around harvest or sunrise or seasons changing, and there's a lot of dancing and respectfulness. There's a real quiet, wonderful sense of respect about the Tahitian people. They are considered very happy, very kind, very generous, and a little bit shy because they believe God is always watching whoever their God is, whether it's the water god, the sun god, the sand god, and God brought them here, and their island is plentiful and bountiful and sustains them, sustainability being a big thing in their culture even today. And it was one of the things that drew Gauguin to the island is, as I said, that simplicity and that idea of ritual. But I hope you'll get to see some Tahitian dancing. I know Gauguin will do that. It's really fun. It looks similar to Hawaiian, but there's a whole nother element to it, again, because of the way they honor their gods and people. It really is about the sea, the sun, and the hibiscus, because that's their natural flower, and that's what grows there. And again, that's what you eat and enjoy. And again, this is the view of what the Tahitian gardenias, they call tian. And those things there, you'll see them all over the island. Some are more plentiful than others. But just like with the coconut, you're going to see a lot of gardenia oils and hibiscus oils, which are very good for your skin and smell good. And they believe the gardenia is all about beauty. When a Tahitian woman is getting married, they're dosed in gardenia oil because it's so pleasant and it's calming and it's very good for you. And that means the white purity of the flower, and then once you get married, it becomes the colorful color of the hibiscus. You can interpret that any way you want. And tattoo designs. It was in Tahiti that tattoos are considered the original area. Tohu, the god of the tattoos, it was the different symbols representing, again, nature and the appreciation of nature, whether it was the leaves or the flowers or the butterflies. And so that was what tattoos were about. And it's really like the Indian henna. It's not like today where you've got, needles and different symbols and stories for your own personal choice. It's really, they're painted on, and it's a sign of passage, like a bar mitzvah or, a woman who's getting married. There are different types of tattoo designs that are presented at your time of age. Usually for a young man, it's something to do with hunting and gathering, fishing. With a woman, it has to usually do with flowers and butterflies that are all part of the Tahitian culture. and it's a respected thing. You can see here in one of them, the tail is for the fish or for the mermaid. And place settings, when you're shopping, and I do recommend it, I don't know about you, but besides mouth-watering memories, when you're bringing forward and home a tradition so that you, just like we're armchair traveling, but you have that element. I know we don't want to get bogged down with stuff, but sometimes just a little something from a happy trip. And they have beautiful place settings, beautiful, little details, whether it's the seashells or the basket weaving. Again, using all the elements of the island, you'll find a lot of coconut weaving things. It's similar to Hawaii, but again, a little bit more unique to that part of the world. And the Taro, now you all ladies, you got to buy one. They're and they have them, by the dozens, and again, all the different designs, whether it's the hibiscus or the butterflies, green leaves, all different colors. They'll be on every beach you go to. They'll be in every town you visit. They're really good quality cotton. I've bought many, and they make great gifts, and you can throw it on as a shawl or use it, over your swimsuit, whatever it is. But again, a nice memory from your trip and time in French Polynesia. I think there are a few ladies in the audience, which I'm very pleased to see. I have mine on, have some black pearls. Tahiti is the only place that the black pearl is found. And the reason has to do a lot with the soil. The oysters they're in warm water, so their pearls mature differently than in other parts of the world like Japan. And you will find black pearl stores all over French Polynesia, and I believe, as far as I know, the quality everywhere is pretty good. They'll have special symbols in the window indicating that they're Tahitian approved by the government, and whatever you want, whether it's a bigger pearl or a smaller pearl, again, a nice memory to have and easy to bring back. Some are more expensive than others depending on how elaborate your choice of jewelry is, but this is where you get the Tahitian black pearl. And tropical fruit jams, again, we're talking about all the different fruits, the pineapple and the guava and the mango. They make amazing jams right there on the island that you can bring home. And, you can pack them away. They pack them so they don't break. But one thing you will see if you enjoy your croissant or your baguettes in town, you will have these kind of jams. It's not going to be raspberry or strawberry or boysenberry. It's going to be guava or mango or pineapple, again, things that grow there. And as I said, the vanilla, yes?
What was the one on our far right?
That one is breadfruit.
Oh.
It looks like kiwi, right?
Yeah.
And breadfruit looks a little bit like kiwi. It's just not, sorry to say, slimy that way. So, but these are papaya, and that's a hibiscus jam, a pineapple jam, and mango, and breadfruit. And breadfruit I don't think it's an acquired taste. It's if you like things less sweet, that's the one. It's an interesting one, fun one to have. And again, the vanilla, and you don't have to bring back a lot. It lasts a long time, and a little drop of vanilla goes a really long way. You're also going to find they're going to be selling all sorts of vanilla candles and vanilla lotion and vanilla soap, and those are really easy gifts to bring back. And they're not overdone. Again, there's a subtlety to the Tahitian, French Polynesian cultures, the way they infuse, because also being an island culture, they're not wasteful. So a little does go a long way. There's a resourcefulness that goes with their mentality, which is very welcome. And again, a real appreciation of beauty and what the land gives you, which is, of course, the vanilla pod. So, here we're talking about this, and I really feel strongly about this emotionally, too. And I'm so lucky, as I said, as a travel editor who really gets to tell all of you about different stories and tastes and traditions from around the world. You're going to meet a lot of people, right? And it's important in this time, too, where we don't take time. So I'm so happy you're taking a cruise, because that forces us in the nicest possible way to pause. And whether you're on the cruise or you're at dinner tonight or on a Sunday brunch or lunch with friends, it's important to remember wherever you are that from person to person, culture to culture, and dish to dish, doesn't matter. The world really does become a smaller place around the table. We really can do sharing and caring and connecting. And I hope that's whoever gets to go or wherever you get to eat, that's what you experience when you take time to have a meal, to visit a country, to visit a place. So, and that's the story that I always try to tell. So thank you very much. If there are any questions, I'm happy to take them. And have a great trip. Thank you. I did say to Lisa, which I think she mentioned at the beginning, I never ever give a lecture unless there's food or drink. Just doesn't. It's not fair to entice and not deliver, right? So we do have wonderful Tahitian treats in the lobby, so please stay. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. And for those of you that are going, enjoy the trip. It's going to be the trip of a lifetime. For you, those of you that don't get to go, I hope you've enjoyed it. And thank you for being here. Yeah.